Hi, my name is Fed. Today I'd like to talk about worries. At the moment, if you are going through some challenging situations or perhaps you're being weighed down by worries, I think this short course is meant for you. No doubt about the fact that worries plays a major role in nearly everyone's categories of life. I doubt it if there is any human who have ever passed through the surface of this earth without worrying or without getting worried in one way or the other. But one thing you want to have in mind is the fact that you don't want to allow worries to subject you to a life of deprivations. You don't want to deprive yourself pleasantness associated with life because of worries. And that's why we're going to talk about the classifications of worries and as well the causes of worries. And when you're able to see the classifications and you're able to see the causes of worries, you're going to have the right perspective on how best you could mitigate worries and as well how well you could position yourself strategically in such a way that when there is any cause for worry, you won't be able to mitigate it. So first, let's dive down and talk about worries. There are two major causes of worries. The first one has to do with real fear. There are instances in which some certain things might happen, and you see one getting worried about those things because by default, those things calls for worries. But meanwhile, does those things cause for worries to the extent whereby you deprive yourself of sleep or you deprive yourselves of food, you deprive yourself of so many good things? That's another different question, which we're going to talk about in the other video. But meanwhile, you need to have it at the back of your mind that when you are worrying or going through stressful situations and you're getting worried, you want to ask yourself, the worries you're going through, is it real? Or just the imaginary type of worry, which often results from imaginary fear. So you want to be able to tame it right away from the baseline by asking that fundamental question. My worries at the moment, are they imaginary or are they real? So when it's real, then you want to as well take a step further and ask yourself, what is the cause of my fear? Or what is the cause of my worries? So, but first you want to identify your worries, are they real or are they imaginary? When you're able to streamline your worries to these two, no doubt about the fact that you are positioning yourself in the path towards solving any form of worries. There has been instances in which in time past, I get dreadful about imaginary situations, only to realize those things were not real, those things were just imaginary. And I think there was a time I almost got myself injured as I just jumped out of bed, and because I felt dreadful and I was worried. I was worried about such scenarios which comes to mind, only to realize that those things were just imaginary. They weren't real. So you want to ask yourself, those worries, are they real or they're imaginary? As soon as you're able to do that, you've taken the first step. The first steps towards solving any form of worries. Then you want to take a step further and ask yourself, what is the cause of these worries? There are four major causes of worries, or perhaps associated with worries. The first one has to do with disappointment. Let's assume you're going through any challenging situations at the moment. You are being worried. You feel stressful because of worries or anxieties. You might want to ask yourself, what's the major cause of it there? Is it that someone has actually disappointed you? If that is the case, then you've actually been able to nail down the cause of your worries, to be disappointed. Aside disappointment, we have rejections. There are instances in which one gets rejected, and when one gets rejected, one begins to get worried. And before you realize it, it's metamorphosized into a whole lot of stressful or challenging situations. There has been instances in which people worry themselves into things which are unimaginable. And there have been instances in which failure as well, being a major cause of worry, as well deprive people of the opportunity to enjoy the pleasantness of life. Because in one way or the other, they might feel, oh, they've actually failed in one way or the other in one aspect of life. There are instances in which students will fail exam and they get themselves worried. And there are instances in which things which are unknown, perhaps unknown scenarios or unknown situations, could as well causes one to get worried. So you want to ask yourself, the moment you are going through a worrisome situation, you want to ask yourself the first question, is this real or imaginary? Then you want to take a step further and ask yourself, what is the cause of this worry? The moment you're able to know the cause of this worry, then you're taking the fundamental first step towards approaching any form of worrisome situation. I could remember sometimes back then, I was having an exam. I think prior to that exam, I felt dreadful. I was scared. I was worried. I don't really want to go into the examination now because I really don't want to fail the exam, and the fear of that actually got me so disturbed. Disturbed to the point that I couldn't hit. And when you take a close look at me during those periods, you could see that this guy is actually worried. Only for me to go for one or two consultations, and I was kind of giving a little bit of encouragement that look, it's better for you to take the exam. When you take the exam, even if you don't pass, you can always learn one or two things from that failure. Knowing full well that fail is just first attempt in learning. And funny enough, I went into the examination hall. Most of the questions that were asked were things which I actually more like get familiarized with, which I've actually studied. And I was able to pass the exam. And I want to believe, let's assume I didn't get myself worried or being tensed unnecessarily, I would have been able to scale the exam with flying color. But the fact that I was dreadful, I had this fear that I don't want to fail the exam. Till the exam morning, the fear was there. So you want to try as much as you can, and that sort of fear was more of an imaginary fear. Those things were not real. They were not real, but rather they were imaginary. So you want to ask yourself, are you going through an imaginary, are you being worried over imaginary fear or perhaps real fear? The moment you're able to do that, you've actually taken the first step towards solving any form of worries. So if there is any form of worries, or if you're going through a worrisome situations at the moment, I think I would encourage you to ask yourself, first, is it real fear or perhaps imaginary fear that's giving you worry? And then you want to nail it down. What are the major causes? Have you been disappointed? Or have you been rejected? Or have you failed anything? Or perhaps if you just don't know much about some certain situations, and that's giving you a whole lot of fear. In the next section, we're going to talk about other interesting things on how you're going to manage worry. I look forward to seeing you in other videos of that. Till then, I'd say thank you and goodbye.